Forced diversity on local culture explained. Hi friends, I'm Eli. Today I'm going to explain and compare some differences in actual diversity and fake diversity, as well as how fake diversity can be harmful and discourage genuine diversity. Then I'll go into how forced fake diversity is negatively affecting my hometown of Santa Fe. Let's start with some theory. We currently live in an environment that greatly values diversity in all forms and in all situations, and I would say to a fault. From the military to our entertainment industry to laws we're making, diversity is the new buzzword to separate people that are supposedly socially virtuous and enlightened from those who just don't know better or maybe are really low-key racists and not even be aware of that themselves. But in the real world, much of this politically correct woke diversity is actually hurting true natural diversity. I think a good way to explain what I mean by that is to start with some examples that take us out of the current political and social boxes that we're used to thinking in. I play music. With the exception of percussive sounds and just noises, there are 12 notes that make up all of the music that you hear on the radio or on your music apps, etc. These 12 notes repeat up and down in octaves, but there are 12. Whether you're listening to Elvis or Metallica, they pull from the same 12 notes, and 8 of those in every major or minor key, including harmonic minors and natural minors, etc. I wrote a song a while back that pulls primarily from 2 notes, E and A, with the respective chords that I built from those. Now imagine if there was such a thing as song police that did 2 things. Number 1, suggested that if I don't always acknowledge and use all of the notes, it means that the ones that I didn't use, I hate at worst, or at best, that I was biased against them. And number 2, required me to use all of the notes and chords in the key of every song I write. This would be a huge, major improvement in diversity of notes and chords, but the music would suffer badly. Every song would sound much the same. In attempting to bring diversity, instead, it would erase true diversity and replace it with conformity in the big picture. Every possible song under this forced diversity rule would sound boring to us very quickly compared to what we have now. Now let's assign skin color to these notes. A equals white, B equals black, C equals Hispanic, D equals Asian, E equals Northern European, and F equals Native American, etc. If I write a song using primarily C and F, does that mean that I hate the other notes? If you answer yes, you should give me a thumbs down and just move on with your day. Stop the video now. If your answer is, of course not, then keep listening. Another example. Think about the same idea but with colors. If you get all of the colors on a wheel and you blend them together, or you turn the wheel quickly, very fast, it all blends into white. Now there's nothing wrong with white, but there's nothing wrong with just red or just blue and yellow, etc. If you're an artist and you're required to use all of the colors in every piece of art you paint in equal amounts to be all-inclusive, this required forced color diversity actually removes diversity from you and your work because you must use all the colors and in similar amounts to not appear as hating some of those colors and to not appear as unfair in some way. All of your work would land up looking the same, rainbow everything. This same principle holds true with cultures. Think about it for a minute. Think about the world for a minute. Think about all the true diversity in various cultures that exist. The cultural variants that span the globe that are so fascinating and truly beautiful. It's amazing. And all this actual diversity happened naturally, all by itself. It was not required by anyone. Can you imagine if an elected leader showed up in Chinatown in San Francisco and claimed there was too much Asian representation and brought in Hispanics and Greeks to judge all their public art and celebrations to make the place more diverse? All that would happen would be that it would lose what made it unique in the first place. What if the mayor of that place demonized the Asian culture and called their history dark and racist and was put off by them honoring their proud past and called for their art and celebrations and statues to come down? Can you imagine if a super historical place like Santa Fe had a mayor that many times over referred to the founding Spanish culture in negative terms and said the city's historical representation was not diverse enough, and then started to remove historical things and put in a process to continue the job, all under the guise of diversity, forced diversity? Oh wait, that's actually happening. And that brings me to the chart process and team. They went out of their way to find and bring the most surfacely diverse group of people from all over the place to judge things that mean nothing to most of them, but are precious to the local culture, the Hispanics here in the city, or at the very least, the majority of them. Some of these decision makers on the chart brag about being professional activists. That's not a good thing. Activists are typically trying to change what exists, but why? As with the musical notes and as with the colors, this will remove what made us originally truly diverse in our own way. It is forced change on our community under the facade of greater virtue and imposed pseudo-diversity. There are deeper reasons driving all this, but I'm not going to get into those in this video. So just like various peoples who built various places around the world and left their cultural marks, the Spanish built Santa Fe, and they settled here because native peoples had abandoned it during hard drought hundreds of years ago. And of course, it gets way more complex than this with the Pueblo Revolt and the reconquest of Santa Fe and all the nuances in between everything that happened. So there is an abundance of Spanish echoes, relics, celebrations, and descendants here. Those things are being directly threatened now and have already been struck against. So what's the counter-argument to what I'm saying? On a local level, what is the justification for attacking the Spanish history and culture, even in our education system now? What would those who disagree with me say to all this? Well, they would say that hundreds of years ago, the Spanish came here and committed genocide against the native people. And so they do not deserve to have representation here that they do today. That argument historically falls on its face and is historically laughable. I could talk about that for hours, and I do. I have hours of content on my channel that goes into these subjects in detail. I talk with historians, faith leaders, former city officials, cultural leaders, and people who are important in our community, as opposed to the chart process that goes out of its way to not involve people who are important in our community and make them judge over all. Look, if you want to be woke and politically correct and stay ignorant as our city is being culturally destroyed, you should stop listening to me right now. If you want to be historically accurate and understand the nuances and details of what is going on here, I recommend you start with my In Defense of Santa Fe series. Thanks for giving me a listen. My name's Eli. I hope you have a great day.